On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, Money Myth Busters.
Welcome to the Crushing Debt Podcast with your host, Florida attorney Shawn Yesner, where our goal is to help you get rid of the financial bullies in your life.
So welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast. My name is Shawn Yesner, owner and founder of Yesner Law. And how you doing, George Curbello, your financial coach?
Thanks, brother. I'm here. I'm feeling good. Ready for another week.
What we thought we'd do this week is talk about, there's a ton of myths out there surrounding money. We've had some previous episodes that have dealt with some money myths, but we thought we'd try to maybe consolidate it all into one more kind of huge episode. Before we get there, though, I do want to talk about our sponsors, one of our two sponsors. Mark Purvis has a website called LegacySpotlight.com, and what Mark will do is help you capture the stories to pass on to future generations, or capture the stories of previous generations that you can pass on to future generations. So, we're going to talk today about money myths. What are some things in your family that you want to pass down? What would you have loved to have a conversation with a deceased family member? Well, now you can capture that before they're gone and have those stories. So again, that's LegacySpotlight.com. Mark is an Emmy Award-winning videographer. He makes us sound good every week, so definitely reach out to Mark if you want to do that for yourself, for your family, for future generations. But let's now launch into some money myths. So why don't we start with your first one, George? What do you got for us?
I would say the one that we hear all the time itself is, credit cards are evil. Evil, I say. They're terrible. They shouldn't be used, and they're going to take you back. And, the question is going to be out there is, how evil are they, I guess, when we talk about credit cards? Because apparently cash is king and all this other good stuff that we hear out there on the internet itself.
So I'm going to say credit cards aren't evil. People that use credit cards are evil.
So it is. We always come back to us, always blaming ourselves in regards to. But I agree with you. Credit cards are a tool. To be able to purchase, get certain things. It always comes back to our habits and behaviors, how we use these products to be able to, do our daily lifestyle, the daily live itself. I think still comes back to spend within your means. But we want to make sure it's always about how we use the vehicle itself in our day-to-day.
Yeah. And I'm kidding, obviously. People that use credit cards are not evil. People that use credit cards improperly, maybe, but, just be aware, like my dad taught me when I got my first card, if you can't afford to buy it, don't put it on the card unless it's an emergency.
Right.
If you can afford to buy it, then you can put it on the card and pay off the card at the end of every month. Other than that, or unless it's an emergency, it doesn't have to go on the credit card.
But here's the thing, though. The emergency to get those Taylor Swift tickets, that's an emergency in my book. Knowing the differences of what that emergency or that type of emergency, I think that's our biggest thing that gets us in trouble as well. So I think knowing what an emergency is for you, because it's going to be different for all of us. For me, an emergency is like I'm not working. I may have to, that's like a big emergency fund kind of thing. But having a new tire, so I'm not driving on my spare for 60, 70 miles, that might constitute emergency. I might need to, use the credit card to be able to make sure I have that and get that back, get that car back up and running. Right. No, and I agree there. What is it that's important? What is it that you need to function on a day-to-day basis? If you're missing something like that, that's an emergency. Absolutely.
But, getting that new thing or getting, buying, if it's not something you need, it's not an emergency.
We're going to be debating on that coffee, that coffee run itself every morning. That might be might constitute an emergency for some folks. There's a lot of cranky people out there when they're not on their coffee drink.
Well, I don't mind someone going out and buying coffee every day. Just don't charge it and not pay the credit card bill. If you're going to charge your coffee, then just pay it off at the end of every month.
I mean, that's the idea, guys. You have to remember, it's accruing debt is what puts us in that position. It's not the credit card itself. It's having tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. That's the stuff that I feel is what's evil. The emotional tie that we have with the credit card. So credit card's not so bad. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with credit cards. Just use them use them
wisely.
Wisely, right.
That's it.
So my first is kind of along the same lines. A lot of times it goes hand in hand with credit card debts. And my first one is, well, if it's on sale, I need to buy it.
Yeah, of course.
And the truth is, no, you don't. If it's on sale and it's something that you use all the time, definitely buy it.
Yeah.
But if just because it's on sale, if you're never going to use it, I bought this new shirt that was on sale, but I'm never going to wear it because my dresser's overflowing with shorts
Right.
and clothes and other stuff that I wear, so I don't need it. So just the fact that it's on sale, why not save the money, spend that money on something else?
I would agree. We will always justify an impulse purchase. And I think understanding, what the feelings are when it comes to these impulse. Oh, it's a great sale. It's 50% off. And it's like, well, you know how retailers, they feel like they mark up to mark down and it's 75% clearance, but they're still, I feel like they're still making a good buck or money on it.
Right.
The well-known is obviously the TVs, your Black Friday deals, the Christmas deals, the day after this deal. There's always this kind of myth that, this is the last time I'll be able to get this deal itself. I need to purchase it now. What's our recommendation when it comes to impulse purchases? Go home.
Go home, sleep on it.
That's it. If you
Relax.
still need it tomorrow, it'll probably be there. And let me tell you, if it's not there tomorrow, it was in the universe. God's telling you, don't worry about it. You'll have another opportunity in the future.
Now, speaking of coffee, I was in the grocery store the other day, and my favorite brand of coffee was buy one, get one K-Cups. And I have enough coffee to get me through, another month. But I ended up buying it anyway because I knew I would drink it before it went bad. It was my favorite coffee, and it was buy one, get one.
I got to say, buy one, get one is a good deal. We have to be careful because we have a lot of folks, we have folks that they buy one, get one, and they have the bunker where they're storing all the K-Cup coffees for 20 years from now.
Right.
So,
if they're going to go bad, I remember going through my pantry the other day. And so now we're 2023 as we're recording, and if you're listening to this on the day it comes out, 2023, I went through my pantry, and there was stuff in there that still started, that it said it expired in a year that started with a 19.
Eesh, that might be a problem.
Why the heck did I buy that and just let it sit for 20 years?
Because it was 50 cents at the time.
Right.
That's what it is.
But if you can't use it today, what the heck good is it?
Hey, unless it's a Twinkie. The Twinkies last forever.
Twinkies last forever.
Love it, man. Love it. All right, well, let me give you a business myth,
Sure.
Here. Money doesn't grow on trees. Again, it's, it can be your personal and your business itself, but you got to spend money to make money. That's another one that's out there. I get it. We want to invest in our growth, in our business, but is it always true when it comes to...
Hang on now, because money is printed on paper, and we get paper from trees.
Oh, so you're... Okay, that's true. Okay, so
money does
grow on trees.
Money does grow on trees.
Well, I guess you're right then. All right, we'll move on from that one.
No. I think that, it took me a while to kind of understand this. Money doesn't grow on trees. What do you think I am, made of money?
Right.
But it all goes back to the spending habits, and it all goes back to the money's not always necessarily going to be there when you need it. And so that one to me is more of a, make sure you save when you can.
No, I like that. And as a business owner itself, too, you have to remember that a lot of money you make, they come from the products you put out there, the ideas that you put together. If you stay stagnant in regards to the business model or the business that you have, that might be the reason why, the money maybe is not growing on trees. So I get the idea of the scarcity mindset. We have to make sure that we're ready to provide, give ourselves those opportunities. But I feel like we jump in. A lot of people today are like, jump in, got to invest in that, housing market, or I got to do these kind of things itself without really not thinking through the long-term impacts of actually going and not having a plan or not having a budget when it comes to those types of purchases or just in any type of investment you have.
Well, and I think the other one you mentioned, you need to spend money to make money. I think that kind of comes from people that say, use money to make money. Or in other words, invest your money so that it makes you money. And then people look at that and say, well, then you got to spend money to make money. You don't necessarily need to spend money to make money. There's a ton of stuff out there that you can do at no cost or zero cost that will still make you money. What expertise do you have? What What is it that you can create? What is it that you can sell? And then once you get to that point, then use that money to make more money.
Right. Sounds so simple. Why do we think otherwise, though? Why do we think
a lot of times we don't get out of our own way.
Ah, it's good. Well, how do I get out of my own way then? How do I move that guy?
Gosh, if I knew that, I'd be making $1 bajillion. I could use all that money to make more money.
Fair enough. I like it.
The ones that I sort of came across, and in line with what you said, is that you need money to invest, or you don't make enough money to invest, or you don't make enough money to save. And what I would say there is, start small. Even if it's $5 a week at the end of a year, 50 weeks in a year, 52 weeks in a year. At the end of the year, it's 5 times 50 is $250, $260. Better than having zero saved up.
Yeah, but it's only $260. What's that going to do for me?
What can $260 buy you? I just paid for us to go on a trip to Jacksonville for my son's soccer tournament. The hotel is $130 a night.
There you go.
So if I save $5 a week for a year, I paid for the Jacksonville tournament for the hotel anyway.
I mean, the other thing too, got to think about it like this, guys. It's all about habits. Oh, I never saved. I've never done this. I don't know how to. A lot of those reasons that we get. This is your opportunity that you're like, if I'm not saving $500, I must be failing. I must be bad at this. And I think you got the right idea. It's like, just start with $5. Start with something that you start to exercise the habit itself, the behavior, the thing in your head that's telling you can't do it. Prove it wrong by doing it on a small scale. If you can prove it on a small scale, I guarantee you'll start to be able to believe that you can do it on a larger scale. And once you start getting that extra money, you can actually expand it and do it more. And well, instead of 5, let's do 10.
Well, and it's like I was going to say, it's creating the habit. So if I can put myself in the habit of saving $5 a week, and I can learn to live off of $5 a week less.
Right.
Well, then the next year, maybe I bump it up to 10 or 7 or 8 or 15 or whatever number.
Right.
And then the next year I bump it up a little bit more and I learn to live on that. And then one of the other myths that I have here is that your salary dictates your wealth.
Yes.
It really doesn't, because I've seen people that make $30,000, $40,000 a year that can buy whatever the heck they want because they're disciplined enough to save. And I have people that make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year that come to me that have to file bankruptcy.
Right.
And again, one of these lessons I learned from my dad is not to let your expenses keep up with or exceed your salary increases.
Right.
So if you save $5 a month or $5 a week this year, and then you get a raise next year, and that raise is $100 a paycheck. Well, instead of saying I'm going to spend another $100 a paycheck more, only spend $50 per paycheck more, and take the other $50 and save it. Or take 20 of the 50 and save it. 50 spend, and then the other 30 is kind of there as an emergency fund if you need it. But don't let your expenses keep up with your salary. As your salary goes up, increase your savings, increase your investing, decrease your spending, do all that other kind of stuff.
I love it. And for me, that's the money myth I was looking at as well, is all my problems will be solved if I make more money. And that's an easy one, right? You're thinking like, the problem is I need that raise. I need to win the lottery. I need to do these kind of things. And what ends up happening, we had an episode before where it's like the windfall's there. And what ends up happening for most of those folks, if they're not disciplined or they don't have these habits itself, the money habits to be successful, they'll end up spending all that money and then realize that I've got more debt or more bills or, bankruptcy itself, because they don't realize like how easy can we blow through $1 million?
Oh, it's really, really easy.
Well, I feel like I could do it going to the groceries once a week, but that's a different issue.
That's an inflation episode. I have a lot of clients that fall into that trap as well. Once this client pays me, once this big project hits, once people start spending the money before they've earned it, and that's when they can get into trouble. And so, I agree. Money doesn't necessarily make the world go round, but it makes the ride a lot more fun.
And that's what a lot of us, we understand that money's not going to bring us happiness. That's another myth.
Money can't buy happiness.
It can. I think in my book, I think I can get, but it's not going to buy you the friends. It's not going to buy you the emotional ties that you get when you have a really trusted relationship. But what is happiness? That's the other thing that we get back to. It's like, I'm happy just, making a decent wage and spending time with family and enjoying the experiences that I need to. Some of us, happiness with I love working. Being the workaholic itself and providing a service to business owners and personal individuals. What brings you happiness, you need to identify that as part of your journey. And obviously then tying that as part of the budget. Your budget should reflect your values. It should reflect what you enjoy. Most budgets, right? Most things you do, if it's not tied to something you enjoy that motivates you, especially going to the gym. Sorry, it's that time of year already.
Mm-hmm. Have you stopped going to the gym yet?
No, I'm still pretty good right now. It's but it did rain today, so I guess maybe that's my excuse.
There you go.
But I got to say these are the little things that we have to keep in mind of like tying it all together. That happiness will help you drive the discipline and all the other things that you want to do with money.
Yeah, and I was going to say money doesn't buy you happiness, but having the money allows you to not worry about it, which will make you more happy. And then the other myth that I think of when you talk about budgeting is painful.
Oh, yeah.
Budgeting is terrible.
Is it, though? It's terrible.
I'm kidding.
I'll give you another one. Well, I make enough, so I don't need to budget and save. I'm good. I got the bags. We're good.
If there's checks in the checkbook, there's money in the account.
We're throwing up a lot of good myths there. It's obviously. Budgeting is not easy, guys. Being disciplined and putting this information on a paper, in an app, it's definitely not an easy task to do, but it's such an important one. We always complain, most of us will complain, where's my money going? Man, I went to the groceries and poof, all of a sudden the account is empty.
Right.
We need to be a little bit, the budget allows us to give us the grace of spending. It removes that emotional stress of where did that go? What's happening with my, I have no clue what's happening with my money. Having a plan allows you to be more intentional, which gives you more control, which eases that stress that comes along with spending.
So I budget once a month, and I know what I need to support the family from one month to the next. Now, I'll look at my money and I'll look at my bank balances multiple times in a week to make sure that I'm on pace with what I know my budget reflects.
Right.
But to say budgeting is painful, I don't have time to budget, I don't have the energy to budget, it takes me, I do it one day a month, and it takes me, 30 minutes.
Yep.
It's not, I can do it either after the kids go to sleep, I can do it before the kids wake up, I can do it in a lull during the day when they're watching TV or whatever. I typically do it on a weekend, so I don't have to worry about using brain power from work towards the budget. But it doesn't take me very long. It typically takes me about a half hour.
Yeah. And
I do it at the beginning of the month. I try to do it before the 5th or 6th of the month, and then it's over.
So I would say to a lot of my clients in the beginning, it probably may take you an hour the first time, especially if you've never created the budget. You probably have to write down and go, oh wait, how much is Netflix? How much is all these kind of things? So that the first few times, yes. And then I would always recommend clients as well, like have a conversation with your partners, with your spouses in regards to the money itself. Both of you contribute to the budget and the planning. But it gets easier. And the conversation around money, we hope, gets easier. And of course, if you work with a good financial coach,
there you go. Then
we can
really
help
easy.
you.
Yeah.
We can help you make that transition painless and easy and seamless. So, but these are the things that most of us, it's painful because, first of all, we don't want to acknowledge maybe the amount of debt. We don't want to acknowledge maybe I'm not making enough money. We want to acknowledge, we sweep it under the rug, and that's tomorrow's problem. We'll get to it eventually. And I think a lot of us really need to, unfortunately, confront some of these issues itself so that we have a better understanding to be able to tackle that debt, save that more, not worry about what I'm going to do for retirement. It's the little things like that.
I go back to there was a book I read by Brian Tracy, who's one of my favorite business authors, and he wrote a very short, simple book called Eat That Frog. Mm-hmm. And the concept of the book is, if you eat a frog, that's the worst thing you're going to do in that day. So do it first thing, get it out of the way, and get it over with. So that's why I try to do my budgeting right at the beginning of the month, on a weekend, typically at the beginning of the day when everybody's asleep. And then I can get it done, and I can get it over with, and I can focus on spending time with the family. But, do it when you are at your peak in terms of brain power. If you're better in the morning, do it in the morning. If you're better at night, do it at night. Whatever. If you're better in the middle of the day, whatever, do it in the middle of the day. Do it, whenever you're going to be able to focus the brain power on it. And again, like you kind of pointed out really quick, a lot of that stuff, as you're going through your budget, you'll find stuff in there that you can cut. You'll find ways to save. You'll find ways to increase income. And so just being aware of the budget will actually increase your budget because you'll understand all this stuff.
You can make the adjustments on the fly. I got to get a gift. I got to, I need to get an Amazon purchase. I need to do these kind of things. If you're constantly looking, not constantly, but if you're aware of your budget and what you're spending itself, you can make the adjustments necessary so that at the end of the month, right, you have more than more money than you do of the month. The little catchphrase there.
And again, that's where you could even start to, once you get comfortable budgeting, that's when you can start to get even more complicated with it. So you say, okay, in October, I need more money to start buying holiday presents.
Yep.
And in August, I need more money to buy Halloween costumes. And in January, I need more money to buy Valentine's Day flowers. And you can start to anticipate those types of future events. When I've said this before on the show too, June and December. June, we have a ton of family birthdays. December, we have a ton of family birthdays. Yep. So we know April, May, we got to start planning for those June birthdays. September, October, November, we need to start planning for those December birthdays. And your budget will allow you to kind of shift on the fly like that.
Yeah, and we tend to just wait till the event, we'll have the money. We'll find the money later.
We'll find the money.
And I think we got to be careful with that mentality. The only way you can find the money is you actually plan and set aside that money itself as part of your budget. So I think that's key.
And again, going back to my simple example, $5 a week, after a year, $260 is enough to, throw a small party, buy a bunch of food, buy a cake, buy some sodas and whatnot. $260. Again, I can't stop talking about my dad on this show, but I'll say to my dad, this thing that I did, I did something, I forget what it was. I did something at the law firm that saved me like $100.
Right.
And I said, Dad, it wasn't worth it to save me $100. And my dad said, well, that's how many cases of paper that you're not going to have to spend the money on because you found a way to save the $100.
There you go.
So that's how I think of my budget.
Going back to the business, I like that. That's a good call out too. Let me give you one more then. Well, let me give you a few. I got plenty. There's plenty of myths out there itself. But the rich live in big houses, drive nice cars, and wear the most expensive clothing. So of course they do, right? Because they can afford to.
Absolutely. Actually, my experience is that you find the opposite.
Yep.
Typically, the most wealthy people wear shorts and T-shirts, and they don't drive beat up cars, but they don't drive the super most expensive, most new.
You mean they don't have a fleet?
They don't have a fleet. Some do.
Some do.
That's unavoidable. But a lot of the richest people. You look at how Mark Cuban dresses.
Yeah.
When he's on Shark Tank, when he's at a Mavs game. Yep. He dresses in slacks and a T-shirt or jeans and a T-shirt and sneakers.
Right.
He doesn't wear a lot of flashy jewelry. Now, I think he's got, planes and cars and all that kind of stuff. But again, he can afford to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
But you don't need, some of the richest people I know live in $300,000 and $400,000 houses.
They can live modest lifestyles and still be surviving. And obviously they can make the money. They have different number of zeros, right, tied to their wealth. But I think a lot of them, if you think about it, they know more about their spending. I bet you they have an accountant or a budget that allows them to be able, like, here's what I need to live each month, and then the rest of it they're using to, build wealth, continue to build on that wealth, to be able to invest, to be able to save, to be able to manage, the downturns in the economy, things like that. So I think those are the lessons that I would like to take from our rich partners, just allow, just be able to understand exactly what are they doing. We talked about money mindset a few weeks ago itself. A lot of that really is, what can I do to really make more and do more with it?
I remember, gosh, we should probably retitle this episode Shawn's Dad, but I remember when my dad and I would go car shopping, he would wear shorts and a t-shirt, and if he happened to have been out in the garage doing woodworking that morning, all the better. The shirt was a little dirty. He would not wear any of his fancy watches, put on sneakers, short, t-shirt. We'd go car shopping. The car dealers would look at him. Now, some of these cars that he was interested in buying, he could stroke a check and buy.
Right.
But the car dealers looked at him and didn't know that, and that gave him tremendous negotiating power when it did come time to buy the thing, buy the car, buy the whatever. But he intentionally, we would go in shorts, t-shirts, shoes and socks, and
they don't got to know.
They don't have to know.
All right. Well, last one. For me, it's normal to have a lot of debt. It is normal. Everybody has debt, right? We got car debts and mortgages and credit cards and student loans. It's normal, to have debt. And I feel like this one feels right? It feels like it should be because we're true. It is true that we have a lot of individuals, a lot of Americans today, a lot of household debt that's out there. But we shouldn't normalize it. That's the difference.
Yeah, the normalcy of it is what I disagree with in terms of what makes it a myth. I'm not the extreme as that guy that's famous in our industry. I'm not to his extreme that all debt is bad. I think
you can if you'd like. No shame in that game, that's for sure.
But I think some debt is good. Debt that you use to buy a house.
Yep.
That's good debt. Especially if you're going to live in that house, especially if you're going to rent out that house and you make sure that the mortgage is going to be covered by your tenants.
Right.
Some debt is good debt. If it's debt, like for example, credit card debt that you pay off at the end of the month, but it's tied to some rewards program.
Yep.
So you get travel miles, you get hotels for discounts or free, you get money back, you get, whatever, those kinds of things. I think that kind of debt is good. Again, it's not the debt itself that's good or bad. It's how you use the debt, how you pay the debt, how you incur the debt that makes it good or bad.
Absolutely. I got to agree with you there. I think knowing the differences, and I think that's part of our financial literacy, that's part of our understanding of money, knowing the different vehicles of borrowing to be able to increase our wealth. Mortgage is obviously the easiest to look at it, but I think there's many ways to do it. I think most of us, we just fall into that trap of like, I got to buy more. I've got to do more. I've got to feel good. I've got to do,
There's no need to keep up with the Joneses.
I don't even know who those are.
Yeah.
Who's that guy? I don't even know that guy.
I know one guy whose last name is Jones. He was a buddy of mine from law school. He lives in Atlanta, Georgia.
You didn't keep up with him.
I do. I kind of keep up with him. But he's the only guy I know whose last name is Jones.
There you go.
An excellent attorney. He's a fantastic attorney. He's still a good friend of mine. I still talk to him. When we go to Atlanta, we try to connect with him. But it was funny. He said to me one day, I always saw him in white pressed button-down Oxford shirts.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, why? And he said, because I'm an attorney. Attorneys need to dress in starched, white, button-down Oxford shirts. And I've never agreed with that. I've always I hate starch.
Starch, yeah.
I can't stand starch.
No.
And I know some people get it. If you like it, then you're weird. But some people do.
You're a good weird.
Good weird, yeah. Not. Please continue to listen to the show. But, I never really believed in that. If I wanted to wear a blue Oxford button-down or stripe Oxford button-down or whatever, I never believed. But that was his thing. It needs to be white. It needs to be Oxford. It needs to be starched. And it goes back to that keeping up the appearance. And in that situation, I definitely did not keep up with the Joneses.
That's okay. And I mean, what is it that you're comfortable with? What's important to you? If T-shirts and jeans are going to be... I always look at people like, be authentic, be you, when it comes to your spending, what you're looking to do with life. Don't worry about what other people, trust me, if those people aren't, agreeing with you, they probably shouldn't be in your circle anyway. So that's okay.
And for everyone that you look at that you say, wow, so-and-so got a new blank, I wish I had one of those. I would be willing to bet you money, which is probably another money myth, but I'd be willing to bet you money that they are saying the same thing about something about you.
Absolutely.
So every time you say, wow, so-and-so got a new blah, 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 I wish I had the money to buy that, I'm sure they're saying, wow, you got a new blah, 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 I wish I had the money to buy that.
Man, that's a great bottle of bourbon. I really want...
Well, if it's a good bottle of bourbon, you offer to share it.
Fair enough.
Or you can send it to us. The last one that I have is buying is better than renting.
Oh.
And I think for a lot of cases that that is true.
Yeah.
I think for a house, I think that's true. I think where it's not true are for assets that decrease in value, like cars.
Cars make sense.
Yeah,
I
I don't,
agree.
there are, and I think it's a myth in that you just need to figure out if it's a big purchase, what is it that you're going to buy? We here at the office, we had our supply company, the company that sells us our office supplies. When we first moved into the office, they came into the office and they said, we will give you a free Keurig coffee machine if you continue to buy your supplies from us. No brainer. Give me a free Keurig. We'll continue. I don't care. We'll buy paper. We'll continue to buy stuff from you. Well, about a year ago now, as we record this, we had a water loss in the office that destroyed the Keurig machine. So we called the supply company and we said, look, our Keurig machine is destroyed. What can we do?
Yeah, what's up?
And they said, well, we don't want it back. We wouldn't even want it back when you're done with it if it was in good shape because you've been using it.
Right.
We're not reselling used Keurig machines.
Right.
So we don't want it back. We don't care. And we said, okay, well, what about a new one? They said, yeah, we'll get you a new one. So I look at the bill this past month, and there's a $9 rental fee on the bill. And so called up the supply company and said, what the heck is this? And they said, well, it's your new Keurig. And I said, I'm paying $9 a month for a Keurig? They said, yeah. I said, I can go to Target and get one for $90.
Yeah.
So how long am I paying this rental as long as you have the Keurig?
Oh, boy.
Like, wait a minute. If I had this Keurig for 5 years, for 60 months, at $9 a month, I'd be paying you $540. They said, yeah. I said, I could get a Keurig that, I don't know what it could do for $540, but it could do a lot.
It'll be your copy machine.
It'll be the copy machine. It'll clean the office. It'll make the coffee exactly how I like it. It'll call clients in advance and ask them how they like their coffee.
It's your virtual assistant.
For $540, give me a break. So in that sense, buying was better than renting.
No, that makes. And here's the thing: we're in that mode. You'll start to realize everything is a subscription now. So it's like, well, I'll subscribe to and have the Keurig. It's part of this fee, but you're paying for that fee. But do the homework, do the math. Trust me, it's the initial investment will pay off in the long run. I think what was I was looking at it too. There was ways to like even rent microphones for recordings. I was like, wait a second, we could just buy, again, initial investment, and then you can hear my lovely voice on this.
If you knew how cheap I was with this podcasting equipment, the mixer was a gift card that I got from a client. The pop screens on the microphones were American Express points that got me those.
Hey, smart man.
The mics themselves were also, I think, gift card. The recording software is free. Zoom is free.
Dude,
We
get it.
I'm cheap.
You are playing the game. This is all about playing the game. I love it.
There you go. So speaking of playing the game, we also need to make a few dollars here at the show. So I'm going to mention our second sponsor, Sam Cohen, very good friend of the show, very longtime supporter of the show, personally friend of mine. He owns Attorneys First Insurance, and they sell errors and omissions coverage or malpractice coverage to attorneys and title companies all over the country. So if you are an attorney or title company, if you know an attorney that owns her own law firm, or you know the owner of a title company, definitely would help us out by hooking them up with Sam Cohen. You can reach him, sam@attorneysfirst.com, or that's the website, attorneysfirst.com. In addition, we've also got our Patreon page, and our Patreon membership is increasing. So thank you, those that have joined Patreon recently. We appreciate all of that. We will start to fill up that website with a lot more content. So thank you. If you want to become a patron of the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/crushingdebt, and that will get you to be a patron. You don't have to do it. We'll still continue to deliver this content weekly for free on whatever podcast player you're listening to, but it would obviously help us out, and we would appreciate if you would go on to Patreon, and you can be a patron for as little as a few cents a day.
I love it.
So thank you there.
Save your bankruptcy lawyer.
Your bankruptcy lawyer doesn't want to file bankruptcy on himself. No, that's not true. Joining Patreon will allow us to do a lot more cool stuff with and for the show.
Yeah, I'm thinking like an after pod sesh. We can do after pod sesh. Anyway, so that's a little teaser.
How long have we been recording these Zoom videos?
They're coming, but I think
and the outtakes.
Yeah, that's coming too. So we're getting there, but definitely that's what I'm thinking as well. But we'll leave it at that. Little teaser.
Okay. The only other thing that I do want to mention, one of our patrons, one of our other supporters is Ford Kais with Action Coach Tampa Bay. Action Coach Tampa Bay, if you are listening to this show the day it's released or in the week or so after it's released, on February 17th, Action Coach is hosting the Tampa Bay's largest networking event. They're actually going to have Brad Sugars, who is the founder of Action Coach, come down here to Tampa Bay to talk to business owners about how to grow a business, how to maintain a business, how to set up systems in the business that will let the business run without you, exit strategies, all that kind of stuff. Action Coach and Brad Sugars are a wealth of knowledge. Yesner Law is a sponsor of that event, and so we have tickets available. So if you want to get a ticket to Tampa Bay's largest networking event, definitely shoot me an email, Shawn@yesnerlaw.com, and I will send you a link that'll get you a huge, huge discount. I think the cost of the ticket's only going to be $47 using my link. So definitely let me know if you're in the Tampa Bay area. If you're listening to this show before February 17, definitely let me know and I will get you hooked up with tickets. Also, visit the Curbelo Financial TikTok page for a lot of great content there.
Yeah, my wife is, the game is getting crazy out there. So definitely visit and give it a like.
And definitely make fun of me for not doing anything yet with the Yesner Law YouTube page. So that's my challenge to myself, that by the time this episode comes out, I have something posted
Don't worry, we'll
on
make
the
fun
YouTube
of you,
page.
though.
Yeah,
that'll
thanks.
be easy.
I'm sure you will. Actually, I think that'll do it for this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast. George, you want to do the line?
No, because I think I've messed it up like 3 times throughout the whole show already.
It's like a rite of passage.
Please.
You gotta mess it up in order to be able to do it right.
No, you do it. I'll let you do it.
Okay, so an entire episode busting money myths. We hope that it causes you to have more money at the end of the month rather than month at the end of the money. Thank you again for listening to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, and we will talk to you in next week's episode.
If you have questions that you think would make a great topic for a future episode, please email Shawn or connect with us on social media. Shawn Yesner and Yesner Law, PL, are Florida licensed attorneys. The information contained in this week's episode is not a substitute for legal advice. Your situation may differ, especially if you are located somewhere other than the state of Florida. If you have questions, please contact our office or contact a local attorney. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast.